So, hello everybody. My name is Ray Cepeda. I am a behavioral consultant, and I've been working with children on the autism spectrum for over 25 years. I'm the director and founder of ABA Skills, and the co-director and co-founder of One-to-One Learning Works. And I've known Melanie for about a decade and a half, and I could not can't put into words how proud and excited I was when she asked me to write the foreword for her book. Because I knew exactly exactly what I wanted to write, because being a mom of 3 children on the autism spectrum is a very unique story. She has a really unique perspective and a variety of things that go on in her life. So without further ado, I will introduce Melanie Donus. Please introduce yourself, Melanie, and give us a little background.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for dialing in or watching on Facebook. I'm Melanie Donus, and I am the very proud mom of 3 children with autism. My children are Dimitri, Michael, and Max. Dimitri and Michael are 18-year-old twins. They just turned 18 in August, and Max is 12. I have been working with Ray for 15 years. He started working with me when Michael was 5, and we continued to work for many years. He met Max, his learner that he is now working with from my family, when Max was 8 days old. So he knows us very well. He's been through a lot of ins and outs with us. The twins are very, very different on the spectrum. Dimitri is very verbal. He's out in the community a lot. He is definitely going to have a job after he graduates. This is his senior year in high school. Michael is in a residential program in Boston. We dropped him off in the pandemic, and I see him every week, at least every week. And we're going to talk a little bit more about our journey to residential later on in the discussion. And then I have Max, and Max is 12. Like I said, he is nonverbal. He uses a device to communicate, and we are working very, very hard with him to help support him in every way that we can. So thanks again for coming in.
Yes, and thank you, Melanie, for joining us. So it's really interesting. You know, I myself, I think, have about 5,000 questions for you. And even though we've talked quite a bit over the years that we've known each other, it's funny how there's still so many things that we really just haven't had a chance to discuss. But let's just focus on the boys for right now. So from your perspective as a mom, where are they on the spectrum? And then also give us a little bit more about where they're going to school and how that's going.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Let's see. Well, first of all, I hate the term high on the spectrum, low on the spectrum, high functioning, mid functioning. I'm really hoping that as a society, we all come up with a different term at some point. But with that said, I would say Dimitri and Michael are pretty much in the middle of the spectrum. They are not going to go to college. They aren't college candidates. They are not candidates for a Regents diploma. They are very verbal. They have a lot of unique talents. Dimitri loves to work. Dimitri loves repetitive tasks, which is very common for adults with autism. I say, put him on a conveyor belt. He's going to be awesome. He's just going to be awesome, because if he did 100,000 things today on a conveyor belt, he's going to do 125,000 things tomorrow. He's very good with repetition like that. He's working right now as we speak. Actually, he's at Gino's restaurant, where he folds pizza boxes, and they need a lot of pizza boxes during the COVID pandemic. And let's see, 2 weeks ago, he was at 108, then he was 138 last week. And he said he was going to top his number, and that's in 1 hour. That's how many pizza boxes he folds. Michael is very verbal. He's very technology savvy. Autism has impacted Michael the most with behavior. He really, really does suffer from a lot of behavior challenges, and we've had a behavior intervention plan for him since, well, I think maybe since he was like 3 years old. And we really had to continuously tweak the plan, because just when we thought he was getting somewhere, then we'd have a step back. You take 2 steps forward, you take 1 step back. So a behavior plan is definitely a big part of his treatment. And like I said, he's in Boston. It was a very it was a challenging decision, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then and Max is, up until he was in public school for 1 year during kindergarten, and before that he was in a special education preschool program on Long Island. And so we decided after his first year in kindergarten that he really wasn't going to be a candidate for public school. So we put him in a center-based program. He was doing fairly well. But the pandemic really hit him hard in terms of his skills and behavior challenges. He regressed tremendously. And so now he is in what's called an autism outreach clinic, where he gets one-to-one ABA therapy all day. But it is not a New York State school placement. So after COVID, well, not after, but probably in the spring and summer, we are going to have to start figuring out where he will be in terms of an educational placement that is New York State approved.
Wow. Okay. So one of the comments just came up about your thoughts about the terms high and low and low functioning from Suzanne. I'm thinking this is Suzanne Taffet, who you probably know, right? It says, yes, those terms high and low functioning are so inadequate. So glad to hear your perspective on this. So much respect going out to you, Melanie, for even doing this talk on top of all you've got going on. Yes, that's really amazing. Yeah,
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the terms high and low functioning, it's almost embarrassing how common it is that people ask parents and professionals about our kids. Is he high functioning? Is he low functioning? Like how about he's just who he is, and we're just doing everything we possibly can to make him the best and most independent that he can possibly be. So anyway, yes. So you mentioned applied behavior analysis. So what other treatments have you pursued other than ABA?
A lot. Well, for the twins, when they were first diagnosed, I was still employed outside of the house. And I was a vice president level executive at a global investment bank. I had a very visible position. So financially, we were in a point where we could pay for whatever we thought they needed. And I had a very long laundry list that was ever growing every single day of what they needed. Every time I heard of something, I read about it, I researched it, I wanted to try it. I really wish that I knew what, if anything, worked. I can't say that something worked, but I can tell you that I'm very proud of where they are today. We did, the traditional therapies such as speech, OT, and PT. And then we had, of course, our one-on-one ABA therapist that came in, and they had the special needs preschool program. We also did things like Tomatis, which is a sensory integration therapy, and I was literally taking time off of work and driving them into Manhattan about once every 6 to 8 weeks, I think. It was tremendously expensive. And they needed to be there. I think it was every day for a week or maybe even 2 weeks. So we were doing that. We did another kind of sensory integration therapy out in Connecticut. I just remember I would drive there every Saturday morning over the GW Bridge and take them there for, and I don't remember, it was near I don't remember where it was in Connecticut. I just remember it was like right over the bridge. And we did a lot of DAN protocols. For anyone who doesn't know what DAN is, it's the Defeat Autism Now method. Tons of vitamins and therapy. Oh my God, I feel so bad when I think about the disgusting drinks that I made my sons drink, but I did because that's what I was told would help them. We did mercury detox, we did chelation. I did not do hyperbaric, only because it just took too much time and I didn't think I was going to be able to like actually get in there with them. Let's see. We did a lot of another kind of auditory therapy. We did, I think it was called fast forward. We did metronome with a literal like ticking like metronome. We did that with an audiologist. We did some therapy with, a lot of chiropractor therapy. We did a therapy where a doctor was spinning them around and around in a chair. And I'm sure there's a name to it. I don't remember. It's kind of all blending in. And even Max, I will credit the Dan doctor though. One of the Dan doctors that we saw did an MRI on Dimitri's brain, and he found an Arnold Chiari malformation, and it was a 6, which is significantly, it's significant. And so we decided that he needed surgery at the time because not only can it impact speech, which is the area that it was cutting off fluid, spinal fluid going to the brain in that area for speech, but it can also impact you physically. Also, if you have Arnold Chiari malformation. And I'm not sure, but I will tell you that he had the surgery at Columbia Presbyterian when he was almost 5. He went to kindergarten with, and I kept them home for a year. I kept them home for a year. They didn't go to kindergarten when they were 5. They went when they were 6 because I thought, maybe 1 year would make a difference. So I did leave them home for that year. Dimitri went to kindergarten with the H sound for high and the B sound for bye. That's it. And he had no device, no means to communicate whatsoever. And now he does speak fluently. He speaks beautifully. Ray, you hear him all the time when you're in our house. He does really, really well. Prompt therapy has helped him tremendously. There's a speech therapist. I hope she's on here. She came to our house twice a week after he had his surgery. She came to our house probably for a few years. And I give all the credit to Michelle for teaching Dimitri how to speak. She did it. That in combination with the surgery, I think, is what helped him. So if anyone's on and they're interested in hearing about Arnold Chiari malformation, there is a link between autism and the Arnold Chiari malformation. You can Google it, but there is a doctor at Columbia Presbyterian that specializes in it. He's the head of neurology, pediatric neurology, and he does the surgeries there, and he was just phenomenal. So I think that's probably it. Max, poor Max. I know we're streaming on Facebook, but we've just ABA, old-fashioned ABA. That's what I believe in, and that's what he has. Prompt therapy. He is very apraxic, like his older brother Dimitri was. So prompt therapy was helping him tremendously, and then it became very, very challenging for me because Max's older brother, he hit puberty and his behaviors were spiking. and I needed to be with him at all times. And it was very hard for me to get Max to prompt therapy. I was driving him from Brookville to Huntington every day. And also because of some toileting challenges, I had to discontinue prompt outside of the home. I would really like to start that up after COVID. But prompt therapy has been a big part of our lives. So I definitely believe in it. I know it worked for them.
Right, right. Prompt. People can argue all they want about prompt, but I've worked with a couple of very talented prompt therapists that were able to get some of the kids that I've been working with to produce sounds that the ABA team was not able to get them to produce. And then we took it upon ourselves to make sure that they were able to generalize some of those sounds outside of the prompt treatment session so they could just start using them. I mean, look, it makes a difference. That's great. So, so some other people just joined in. So I just want to welcome you to the talk. We're here with Melanie Donus. She's the author of Leaning on Mom, Letters to Roberta, How a Mom of Three with Autism Found Strength During the Pandemic, which we're going to get more into what happened during the pandemic. But let's just take another question about some of the services that her three boys are going to be receiving and or are receiving. So I know that you use self-direction. So, but describe some of the other services that the boys are receiving.
Max right now, like I said, Max is getting a one-on-one ABA in the outreach clinic. They're amazing, and he's making a lot of progress. One of Max's behavior challenges that we were trying to track before the pandemic is he started to stretch his eyes, not poke him. It's not self-injurious behavior, but he literally like stretches his eyes a lot. I don't want to do it because I might get more wrinkles, but he stretches his eyes a lot to look at things, and it became so much that we really needed to take data on it and extinguish the behavior, and we weren't getting very far. And then in the pandemic, when he was at home, it turned into a completely new, different beast. So when he started in the outreach clinic, he just within a 6-hour period, he was stretching his eyes 189 times. And now it's down to 32. That's in a 6-hour period. That's at school when he has one-on-one therapy. When he comes home, I do my best, hands down, hands down, hands down, hands, Max. It's a lot to keep up with, but ABA is his primary therapy right now. He gets speech. And then Dimitri gets speech as well. Dimitri has graduated, so he's been kicked out of OT and PT. But Dimitri is out in the community a lot, and I use self-direction. Self-direction has been a lifesaver for me. If there are any moms on here that are in New York State and you do not have self-direction yet, I urge you to run, not walk, to find out how to get it. I'm happy to help you. Self-direction is a service through OPWDD, which is the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. And you are given a budget. After approval, you're given a budget based upon your son or daughter's scores. And the budget is broken down into different lines on a budget, just like if you had a corporate budget. And self-direction, I credit self-direction as well as Dimitri's ComHab worker for 6 years for his 50-pound weight loss. You would not, I look back to his pictures in 2012. He was a severely obese child. It's not that I neglected them and their diets. I just, I was doing the best that I could. I can't look back. I can't be critical of myself. I can't look at those pictures and say, what in the world was I thinking? But I do look at those pictures and say, wow, he was a lot heavier than I actually realized that he was. And as soon as we got self-direction, Nick, his ComHab worker, started taking him out in the community. And that's not something that I could do because I was juggling Max and I was juggling Michael's behavior challenges, and I just couldn't get Dimitri out in the community enough. He started taking him out. Dimitri loves to exercise. And so right away, he got him out playing basketball, soccer, things that he hadn't been doing. And before you knew it, he lost 50 pounds between middle school and high school. It was literally within like an 18-month period after we got self-direction. So I use self-direction a lot for Dimitri now. Michael doesn't have it anymore because he's in residential. I use it the most for Dimitri. Dimitri does yoga. He loves yoga. He has something every single night. He does yoga. He works. He has a job coach. He does bowling. He does basketball. He does the Y. He does theater. He does swimming. And the gym, 24-hour fitness. God, please don't let the gyms close because the kid loves working out. And just like he does, like he loves the increasing numbers with like the pizza boxes, and how I said he really loves to increase, the numbers that he does. Like he does the same thing with the weights. Every week he wants to increase the weight. So Nick, his comhab worker, who is also very athletic and very sports oriented, has had to teach him how, no, you can't just keep increasing every week. But he's ready to be like a bodybuilder. So self-direction really has been a godsend for me. For Max, I use it primarily for home support and public support when I am with him. He's not really a child right now that can go out with a comhab worker by himself, kind of, sort of, he can. But for the most part, I'm usually with the comhab worker. And then the comhab worker works at home on a lot of ADL skills, sitting at the table and eating. Believe it or not, watching TV was a goal for him. So she'll sit and help him stay engaged. He recently started using, the outreach clinic taught him how to get YouTube on his iPad. And that was such a miraculous day for me. It was like such a joyful day when I saw him actually over on his iPad. He's 12. And he just learned how to use YouTube, and he loves it. So he's using that, and showering, helping him. His comhab worker is actually helping him put up his clothes. He can't fold his clothes, but she can say, put up shirts, put up pants, dirty clothes. Yeah, that's primarily what I use self-direction for, but it really, really is very, very helpful for me.
That's just amazing. I didn't realize that there was such a dramatic weight loss transformation going on. Like I saw it, but it didn't even occur to me. It was such a short period of time, and that was all thanks to the young men that were working through self-direction. That's great. So someone just asked if who just joined, can you just repeat the ages of the boys?
Sure. First of all, thank you for joining. And the boys' ages are 18. They are twins. They turned 18 in August, and Max is 12.
So let's talk about the path to selecting a residential placement. So what was it like when you dropped him off? How did you come to the conclusion that that's really what you needed to do? And what's going on with him now? And how's your relationship with the school?
Thank you. Wow. That's a loaded question. Michael has, like I said, from the very beginning, he has suffered from behavior challenges. Mostly, we've tried to peel the onion away and try and figure out where they come from. Mostly OCD related. And I did homeschool him, which I think we may talk about a little bit later. I did have to homeschool him when he was 10. He was put on homeschool by public school when he was only 10. And then I ended up just privately homeschooling him on my own for a year. And so as he became, as puberty hit, his tantrums became even more, and the aggression was starting to happen, not necessarily towards me. There were a few times, and I think that one of those times was when I realized that I was actually very scared. This went on for about 3 years. I don't know if the behaviorist is on. We're very close with some behavior consultants in our town, and they were constantly trying to tweak the behavior plan. But it was tough because his behavior was fine at school. Once we moved to the district that we're in right now, is almost immediately his behavior chart was flat with behaviors, but the behavior challenges were at home. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And no matter how hard I tried to adhere to the behavior plan, it was super challenging because I was afraid and I was very fearful. And I think that, if I had spoken out a few years earlier, perhaps he would have gone to residential a few years earlier, but I didn't want to seem like a failure. I was afraid that the behaviorist was thinking that I wasn't doing my job as a mom. I wasn't participating in the behavior plan. And I really, really was doing my best. And I think now that he's in residential, I think that they also realized that things were a lot worse than I told them, than I shared. And so I think, during the last year, the police were at our house almost every week. During the last year, before we dropped him off at residential in June, we had secured a place in January, but then and his actually in February, and then his admission day was going to be April, and then COVID hit. So he stayed at home until June, and then we dropped him off, but it was really in the height of the pandemic. The police were, they were at our house so much that they received an award in our town for their extraordinary work for children with autism. They were honored by Nassau-Suffolk Autism Society of America, who so kindly honored them in front of a lot of their peers because of their extraordinary work. It was horrific. It really was. It was humiliating. We live on a street with houses that are very close to one another. And when the police came, they knew why they were coming. So quite often they brought several police cars, sometimes an ambulance. And, there was one weekend when they were at our house like 4 times in one weekend. And that was the first time that I actually said, you can take him. I need him to go. I really wasn't sure what the process was in terms of when the police show up. So now I understand, and I'll just educate anyone on here who's never had their child taken out by the police because of destructive behavior. What happens, at least in my town, I think it's different in the city in Manhattan, but in my town, if I call them, they come to the house. They have 2 options, and that is to either de-escalate the problem, which sometimes meant getting him to take his medication because he stopped taking his medication from me. He would only take medication from the school nurse. So that was a really big issue. So sometimes the police would just come. They knew that I was working on a placement, and sometimes they would just come to our house and have him take his meds. I can't say enough for our precinct. I really can't. I owe them my life. But getting back to what happens in our precinct, they have to put handcuffs on them because anyone that rides in the back of their car, if they're taking them to a psych unit, which is where they would be taking them because they're a juvenile, they have to be handcuffed unless they're in an ambulance and they need to be monitored by medical personnel on their way there. So I knew that they were going to handcuff him the first time, and it was horrific. That I remember just sitting there with my glass of wine, which we'll talk about later, on my stoop, and they came and I said, no, he's got to go. And I remember like that time, they said to me, I was just dreading it. My heart was just beating so fast. And they said, we need you to go in the back of the house because we need this to be as calm as possible when we take him. And they were so kind they were so kind to him. They said, okay, Michael, we're going to take you to the hospital, and we're going to make sure you're comfortable. This isn't going to hurt, but you know, our boss, that it's our boss's rules that if you ride in the back, then we have to put these on your wrist. They won't hurt. Okay. And he said, okay. And then I heard a click, click, and they said, are you okay, buddy? And he said, yes, I am okay. And they said, okay, let's go. And they took him out, and that was fine. It wasn't fine, but they took him. And then, of course, he got discharged the next day because he didn't show any behaviors in the hospital. And that happened about 5 times during the last year before he was put into residential, to the point to where they would come and I would just say, I don't even know why you're taking him, because this is not going to help. He was hospitalized 2 other places. He was hospitalized. One time he was admitted. He went to South Oaks for a week, and I'll just be honest with you, it was just a complete waste of time and disruption in our home. Not helpful at all. And then I did, this time last year, I had to have him admitted into a hospital in Connecticut. Excuse me. And a lot of people don't know about this, but it's a hospital called the Hospital for Special Children, and it's in Connecticut, and they have an autism inpatient unit. They just opened up a brand new building just for children with autism, and he was there for 3 weeks. It did help us get through the holidays, but in terms of behavior, I'm not so sure that it really helped that much. But it did help. He was there through Christmas. I went there on Christmas morning to see him and then came home. So in terms of behavior, that's what happened. And then I finally admitted to the school district. The school district said to me, you know, one morning he was going to get his consequences when he went to school for not sticking to his behavior plan the night before. So he was very agitated. And when I dropped him off at the high school, he ran away. And he ran across a very busy intersection, and it caused a lot of commotion. And that's when the chairperson said, you know, if that happens one more time, we're going to have a conversation. And finally, I got to the point to where I said, I think I'm ready for that conversation. And it was not fun at all, but I will tell you that he got rejected from almost every single New York State. Actually, he did get rejected from every single New York State residential school. I'm not too happy with New York State and their residential program right now because there aren't that many options. He got rejected because he was too, remember those words that I hate, high functioning, or he wasn't on the Regents track. Yes. I actually had 2 letters come in that said he's not on the Regents track. So eventually we had to start looking out of state, and Massachusetts is very well known for their residential programs, and that is where he is right now, and I'm very happy.
All right, good. So one thing that came up that I think a lot of parents experience, and I'm wondering if you could just talk about it a little more. Michael, for the most part, is fine with other people out of the house in other settings. When he's home with you is when all of the behaviors that are undesirable come out. So I just want you to just talk about that. Like, I mean, obviously, like what you think about that, how you're feeling about that, and like now, like, are things getting a little bit better?
Oh, you bet they're getting better. You know, as a mother, you know, I can't tell you what a failure I felt like because it was only when it was with me. Why will he listen to other people? Why will behavior consultants come to our house and say, Michael, you better listen to your mom tonight. When I leave tonight, you better listen to your mom. I'm right down the street. Well, why won't he listen to me? I don't know why, but that's just how his brain is wired. And yes, things are getting a lot better. Number one, you know, I'm able to spend more time right now. Max and Dimitri, they're getting more time, the time that they really deserve over the past few years that I wasn't able to give to them. And most importantly, I'm able to show up for myself now. And I really didn't realize how little I was doing for myself. I was just surviving, just barely surviving. And it was a critical decision, a much needed one. And I'm not saying that that's where he's going to be for the rest of his life. I don't think he's going to be in Massachusetts the rest of his life. But, I'm trying to focus on today for now. It's a lot easier said than done.
Okay, good, good. Thank you for sharing all of that. So how would you describe your relationship with your school district, and are you familiar with some of the other school districts that are on Long Island?
Thanks. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I am probably one of the very few people. I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for others, but I can tell you that I emphatically love my district. I respect them. We have mutually collaborative relationship. They have said no to me before, and I took no as an answer because I do respect their opinions. And I'm very, very happy with them. I was in a very small district before we moved to this district just for my children so they could get the services that they needed. And I have gone to other meetings in other districts before with parents as an advocate or just as a support person. And what I'm seeing, the trend really across the board, at least my opinion, is that you need to be in a larger district. The larger districts seem to be, just in my own humble opinion, the larger districts seem to be able to give more support and be a little more flexible. At least that's just my opinion. And, like I said, it's not just my district, but I've been in other districts as well.
Good. Okay. Well, I mean, I know that things certainly do vary from district to district, but I know it's been my experience as a professional that sometimes it's actually the person that leads that particular school district that either kind of understands what you're going through as a parent and what your children really need versus others that may be like taking other things into consideration and not so much the human element. So,
True.
have you ever homeschooled any of the boys prior to the pandemic?
I have.
Right.
Michael.
You discussed a little about Michael's, but how about Dimitri or Max?
Not Dimitri and not Max.
Okay.
Michael, I did homeschool for a year. And I can tell you that it was horrific. It was beyond horrific. At first, like I said, the district put him on homeschool, but then I had a choice to either homeschool him or put him in another program that I didn't think was appropriate for him. So I chose to homeschool, and it was really, really tough. I don't recommend it at all. I don't. I think, back in when they were younger and between the ages of 2 and 5, I'm not so sure, again, just my opinion, I'm not so sure that I would have put them in a preschool education program. I think I would have just done ABA all day. I would have, and things are a lot different now than 18 years ago, because now you can get ABA through your insurance company. There are a lot of different avenues where you can get ABA. And, but homeschooling that year was really, really bad. It was emotionally debilitating for me, for him. I was brokenhearted that first day that school started because he didn't have one. So I really don't recommend it.
Okay. I was thinking about one particular experience if you wanted to share it. Remember when Michael got upset with you and decided that he had to express those concerns by leaning out the window and yelling?
Yeah.
Would you mind telling that story?
Oh my God. Yes. Michael, at that point we lived in a smaller district and we lived in a ranch, and he would always, if I left the house, I couldn't go anywhere that year. I really could not go anywhere. And if I left the house, he would open up the windows and scream out, "Help, my mom left me alone. Help, my mom left me alone. I need help here. I need help here." And of course, someone hears the little kid calling that, and the cops would come. Yeah.
it was always something new every day. It was always fascinating.
Always something new with that kid. What can
So,
I say?
okay. So can you share with us a little bit about what happened with Max related to the pandemic and his school placement?
Yes. Max, as I shared before, Max was in a center-based program, and but he did regress tremendously during quarantine. And he really, Ray, as you work with him, not to put words in your mouth, but like many other children who I feel like have really gotten the short end of the stick here during the pandemic, who are as disabled as him, they need consistency. They need one-on-one help. They need consistency. And when the school that he was attending was not going to have summer services, I had to start really thinking about his future. And as far as like the next year went, because I wasn't for sure if that school was going to open or not. I was hearing a lot of rumblings that they may not, they weren't sure. So I made the decision to pull him from the school so that starting in the summer, he could have consistency.
Right.
And I'm very happy that I made that decision because he is getting consistent treatment now. And in the pandemic, it's tough because now he doesn't have a school. But I think he is where he needs to be today. And, one of my favorite quotes, I was just reminded of this because I saw it, I think it was on Facebook or LinkedIn, I don't know, one of social medias. It's from Steve Jobs. And it says, looking back, you can connect dots. It's very easy to look back in your life and your children's life and see where they were at specific times and why they needed to be there. And there's a reason for that. So know that today, in today's world, you are where you need to be. And I'm sure that where the dot where he is right now is going to lead us to his next school placement. I do get a little bit of anxiety about it, but I did have to pull him from a school.
Right. Well, he is doing very well. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed because the pandemic is really having a negative effect, not only on all of us, but I think it particularly impacts our kids, because for the majority of them, we can't explain to them why all of these changes are going on. And on a separate note, just one comment is I reached out to a couple of different senators in a couple of different states asking about our kids and what's going to happen. Are they going to receive compensatory services? And, it's like, needless to say, I was completely blown off or just redirected to their whatever Department of Education. I mean, who I didn't need to talk to. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the book, because this was a huge undertaking. I mean, look, you're a mom with three teenage boys, or three boys with autism, and so when you decided to come up with Leaning on Mom, Letters to Roberta, just talk me through some of that process. Like, did it hit you late at night? Was it just one day you really had to vent? Or was this something that had been brewing for a while that you said, you know what, I really just got to sit down and do this, and I'm just going to stay up from 2 to 5 in the morning every day until it's done? I mean, tell us more about that.
No, I didn't set out to write a book. I'm glad I did. I'm really, really happy with the results, but I did not set out to write a book. My mom passed away. It'll be 3 years in February. I miss her so much. And, I have co-authored 2 other books, but they are on the professional. They're in the professional industry about executive recruiting and placement and careers. A lot of people have told me before, oh, you should write a book. Just joking. You really should write a book about this, because I do have some interesting stories, but I never really had the time to do it. And then just that everyone knows that we're also going to talk about addiction here, and I knew that the pandemic was my second bottom. I a lot of people didn't know. People knew that I am a recovering alcoholic, and they know that I got sober several years ago, but the only person that knew that I was in relapse was my husband.
Mm.
And so, I was out there for about a year, and of course, I threw my books away thinking, oh, I don't need these, maybe I can drink. And then of course I realized that I needed my books again. And I tried so hard to get sober again. And I was going back to my outpatient program on Long Island where I get treatment, but I just couldn't get sober. I couldn't get even like 2 or 3 days under my belt. From August through March, I just couldn't get it. December, I stopped going to the outpatient program. I still in my head every morning I woke up saying, okay, today's the day. Today's the day. Okay, maybe I'll try this. I'll try this option. I'll try that option. And nothing worked. And then I was actually thinking, my husband and I were considering, well, I actually had arrangements to go to an inpatient facility for detox. And that was supposed to happen in February, and then the pandemic happened, and I realized very quickly, okay, that's not going to happen. So I don't have an excuse, and I'm not going. This is going to be my second bottom, because I am not going to go to the liquor store and possibly bring home a deadly virus to my children and my family. So, against doctor's orders, I went cold turkey. That's not something that's recommended. Detox should be medically supervised. Usually, my dad actually detoxed on his own. God bless his soul. He was a raging alcoholic, but then he stopped. I think I was probably 11 or 12 when he stopped, and he just stopped cold turkey. And back then, there wasn't AA, there wasn't outpatient treatments. There were all these, a lot of various 12-step programs. He didn't have that. And I did it. So this is the long answer to your story. I had no one, I had no support, completely isolated. I knew that this was the time. So I decided to use something that a lot of people have told me before, that I should try to journal. And, I thought, I can't journal. I don't have time for that. What am I supposed to journal? I'm drinking at night. I'm not going to journal while I'm drinking, for Christ's sake. So I just started, I had a brain dump one day, and then I had a brain dump the next, all on Google Docs. And by day 5, it did occur to me that maybe someone may want to read this. And so I just kept journaling. And then I thought, maybe I should write letters to my mom. And then I ran it past a professional friend who is in the book business and an editor at a well-known corporation. And she agreed that I had something. And I just kept writing letters. And I did get up. I got up at 5 a.m. every day during lockdown to write a letter or to tweak the one from the day before. I worked very hard with my editor. We had meetings every week, and August 17th we published, and you wrote a very compelling foreword for me. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for asking. It was an honor. Thank you. So about your addiction. So when did you realize that you had alcoholism?
I think I was around 45 or 46. I'm 53 now. I know exactly, unlike some other alcoholics, I know exactly what day that I invited alcoholism into my life. It was always there. It's hereditary. So if you are on the call and you think you may be teetering on alcoholism and you do have it in your genes, if you have a parent who was an alcoholic or an addict of some kind, who suffered from addiction, then I would kind of keep an eye on it, because if it's in your genes, all you have to do is open the door and it will be there. And I opened the door. I'll never forget. It was actually when Michael was being homeschooled that day. And oh God, it was such a bad day. He was rolling around on the front yard all day. And my neighbor would come over and check in on me. And she came over that day and she just said, "You had a really bad day." And I said, "Yeah, he had a really bad day too." And she said, "Listen, if I were you, I would just go to the liquor store. I would get myself a bottle of wine and I would wait until everybody goes to bed. And I would sit there in the quiet and decompress." And boy, did that feel good. So that's what I did. I never had alcohol in my house. At that point, I never even, I was a social drinker. I never had it in my house. And yeah, I remember that day, my husband said, "Wow, you're drinking wine at home?" I'm like, yes, it's a bad day. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And I sat and I looked out my bay window that night and I only had a couple of glasses. But then I sat in that same place every night. And that was the day that I invited alcoholism into. I opened the door. I didn't invite it. I opened the door and it came in.
Wow. That's really that's really powerful. That really is. And just the just the ability to be able to think through that and realize that you are having some very specific challenges, that you have a real problem, and then taking that on. That's really amazing, Melanie. That really is.
Thank
You
you.
know, it's becoming more and more common for people to be forthcoming about their struggles with addiction, but I've never seen anyone come forth, especially in the way that you are, that has a child with a disability. So when you think about it, with all the celebrities that have come out of the closet, so to speak, you never really hear of a mother with a disabled child talking about their addiction. So why do you think that is?
Well, there's already a stigma, especially for women, to have addiction, or really there's a stigma for women to have any kind of issue. I mean, it's tough being a woman, let's face it. But especially, we have so much responsibility, and the first thing that comes to someone's mind is, "Oh my God, the kid. Oh my God, the child. The child. Are they getting what they need? Is it dangerous? Is it dangerous in their house? Like, what if their child runs away while she's drinking?" Well, it's always about the child, and it's never about the mother. It's never about the mom. It's always about the child. And meanwhile, I can tell you that um, I am in touch with a lot of damn good mothers who suffer from addiction, and first and foremost, we're mothers. But addiction is there. But I do think that's why, because we're afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid that people would think that I wasn't caring for my children. I mean, could I have done a better job? Probably, but I did the best that I could. And I do think that that's why the stigma.
Right. It's fascinating because with all the families that I work with, I try to encourage moms to take care of
I
themselves,
know.
take 15 minutes a day. Like if you have to lock yourself in the bathroom just to have some silence
Hmm.
and some peace of mind. Because I mean, everything you're saying just makes perfect sense. Because I mean, I've always thought, and obviously extremely far from my personal experience, but that moms are the hub of their families. And if mom is not doing well, or if she's just getting by, then the rest of the family is not doing well, or they're just getting by. And so, yeah, it's just an unbelievable amount of pressure. And even all the years that I've been doing this work, I can think of 3 dads that have been involved with their kids at a level where they understand what's going on, where
Hmm.
they're going to school, what kind of programming that they're receiving, how to get them to to communicate. So I mean, that just makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's so much pressure on moms in general, and then moms of children with special needs. I hope that this motivates some moms to feel like they can come out and talk to somebody, even just a friend, that it's okay, because self-care and getting to the point where you feel more comfortable in your own skin is really so critical, just as a human being. I'm not even talking about taking care of the kids or the family, but just for yourself. So
right. I mean, can I just touch on that for a minute?
Please. Yes.
You know, one thing that I've realized a lot of things this time around in sobriety, but you know, motherhood is motherhood, and it's tough whether you have a disabled child or not. Motherhood is tough all the way around, and and as much as I love my children, I love them dearly, but it's isolating, it's lonely at times, especially now. And that's why alcoholism is increasing so much during COVID. And for the mothers, especially, because for the mothers, you are, you know, all of a sudden you're a short order cook, you're a teacher, you are, you know, and God forbid you're trying to actually juggle your career also. You're the housekeeper, you're the bearer of bad news, you're everything. But and you just can't be anything to yourself. So when you kind of feel like there's nothing to look forward to during the day, and I'm not saying that I did not have anything to look forward to for my kids, but wine at the end of the day is kind of attractive, you know, at the end of the day. Yes. I mean, you know, for someone with addiction, it's also attractive, like at noon and in the morning. But listen, you got to joke about it, okay?
Right,
you can't.
right.
You have to laugh. You have to laugh. But yeah, it's really, really tough on mothers. And I find it hard to believe that, I mean, I'm proud that I came out, and I know that, excuse me, I know that I've had the reaction from a lot of people when they read, I think it's page 3 or 4 of the book, The Cast of Characters. The last line is, I'm an alcoholic. And so many people were stopped in their tracks because they didn't know. They didn't know. And, you know, that's one of the messages that I want to send tonight, is that you don't know. You don't know what demons someone else may be battling. That's why it's so important to be kind and caring at all times. You know, everyone thought I was so well put together and I was busting my rear end for my kids, which I was. No one would have ever known that I was suffering from addiction. So it, you know, alcoholism is very lonely and very isolating. And amongst the mothers that I have spoken to just in the past 9 months, those are the first 2 words that comes out of our mouths, is loneliness, isolation. And you have, as a mother, you have people who are in your face all day long, you know, but still you're lonely, and there's really no way to describe it. But sometimes decompressing with wine does help fill the loneliness. And that's why in the book, I actually gave her a name, Donna. Donna, my best friend that I've had a tumultuous relationship with for, you know, for the past 7 years. I hope that bitch doesn't come calling me again.
So Melanie, what treatment options are available for mothers that are suffering with addiction?
Okay, great. That's a great question. So if you're local on Long Island, there is, and you can get away. If you can get away and just do a detox, excuse me, there's a place in Calverton. I have a lot of good friends that have gone there. It's brand new. I think it's called Newbridge. Excuse me. So it's a brand new facility, and my friends that have gone there have had wonderful things to say about it. Moms just like me that have gone. So if you can get away to, you need to break the cycle. You need to break the cycle. That's the whole thing. You know, when you look at my book, I think I had like 12 days under my belt because I thought Cuomo said that liquor stores were deemed non-essential. So that was another thing that got me up to 12 days. You know, my nurse friend was like, no, those are essential. And because people are going to be like running to the emergency rooms because they need to detox. Oh boy, that's Michael calling me. Yeah. So anyways, once someone did slip and told me 12 days into it that the liquor stores were open. And I thought to myself, wow, I wish she didn't tell me that. But then at that point I had 12 days. So I had already broken the cycle and I was successful and I didn't want to break the 12 days. So breaking the cycle, that's what you have to do. And Newbridge, and then there's also a place in Connecticut that has a great 7-day detox program, and they will work with you on your insurance and your financial situation. It's called Mountainside, and I have a few friends that have gone there, and that's where I was going to go as well before COVID hit.
So do you want to just pick up the next time Michael calls and put him on speaker and no, just kidding.
No, but I also want to touch on, oh my God, how do I turn this phone off? I never turn it off. And there are 12-step based programs that I think are crucial. There are various 12-step based programs. And I think, one of the things that really makes them very special and why those particular types of programs are successful is the connection that you get from that program. Everyone wants to be connected. Everyone wants to be included. They want to feel like they're liked. They need human connection. And the 12-step based programs are based upon human connection.
So that's the perfect segue into my next question about the fact that there's more and more media surrounding the increasing numbers of women who struggle with addiction. So are you connected with other women in your treatment program like you, and do you see a common thread?
Absolutely. Oh, you bet. I have developed quite a posse of people, women, wonderful, wonderful friends that I would do anything for. And I know that they feel the same way about me. We have that one common thread, addiction. We're mothers as well. And the other common thread is isolation and loneliness. And that's something that I suffered from tremendously before my second. Adelise, do you mind to just take this and tell him I'll call him back? Thank you. Thanks. Sorry.
That's fine. Look.
Hi, Michael. It's Adelise.
I love your haircut.
Adelise. Oh, thanks.
Look, this is the perfect example of what happens when you're a mom of a child with a disability, or like any child. I mean, they're just calling, like they want what they want when they want it, and they're just not going to stop until they get it. So
yeah, like 18 or 32 times.
So Melanie, this is your second experience getting sober, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know why you relapsed, and why did you choose the pandemic as a time to get sober again? Did you have medical support?
Thank you so much. Thanks, Adelise.
Of course.
I do know why I relapsed the first time, and I remember that day as clear as can be. And it's so weird when I tell you why. It was the first year that all 3 of my children went to sleepaway camp. So you would think I would be super happy, right? My husband and I have time together. But the week leading up was the first time I packed for all 3 of them going away. It was incredibly stressful, and my husband was working. But really, I didn't, that was when I realized that, and this is very common with alcoholics, I didn't know how to relax or celebrate without a drink in my hand. And we dropped them off. they got on the bus, they're on their way to Hunter, and I was like, I'm going to drink. And, my husband he knew there was no way he was going to get in my way. And that's what happened. And then, I said, oh, it's just for today. It's just for today. And then it lasted for 2 years. So I learned something about myself that time. And that's very common with alcoholics because we're so used, social drinking is so common. And you have a cocktail, you're sitting on the beach, you're drinking wine, and wine is very prevalent for women who suffer from alcoholism. Women are big wine drinkers. So I'm sorry, that was when and am I getting a medical treatment?
Medical support, yes, yeah.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
I am taking medication, yes.
So can you describe your system of support for your sobriety right now?
My sister of support.
System,
that would be my sister system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have so many great women friends. I'm just beaming from it. Not that I don't want to be friends with men, but you know what? I'm sorry. I just don't. But I have so many great friends that I have made, and it really has filled a big hole in my heart. Hole that I haven't had good friends in so long. Thank you, Bob. So I do have that, and I have my social worker, and I always show up when I'm supposed to show up. I show up for myself now, and I'm not talking about dieting and physical exercise. I show up to feed my soul. And that is so crucial, and it's so easy to leave it behind when all you do is take care of your children all day. And then at the end of the day, you have nothing. And it's easy to turn to the bottle.
Right.
And what I have seen also is I've seen I have a lot of good friends, and I've seen some high bottoms and I've seen some low bottoms, and it can happen to anyone. And that's why it's very important. I've had a lot of people say, well, it's just one drink, it's just 2 drinks, but for someone who has a disease, for someone who is addicted, 1 drink or 2 drinks can lead into a really low bottom, and it can turn into maybe killing someone, maybe killing yourself. It's very dangerous. Addiction is a lethal, isolating, lonely disease. It's not worth that 1 drink.
Right. So what are you doing differently this time around versus your last period of sobriety?
Oh, yes, thank you, Annalise. Just showing up, like I just said, showing up when I'm supposed to show up. I'm actually listening to people who I thought I knew like what I should be doing, but other people who have the professional credentials, I listen to what they tell me to do, and it's working.
Okay, good. You're not seeing yourself like your opinion over everybody else's. Is that an easy trap to kind of fall into?
Yes. Yes. I don't know everything. I've come to realize that. But getting back to the kind thing, like I just can't stress that enough. You just don't know what people are doing, and very unkind actions and unkind words, while they may seem very small to someone else, could really be devastating to someone.
That makes sense. So with that in mind, what would you say to another mother that might be struggling right now?
Call someone you know. Call someone you trust. I'm here. You can call me. I'm on social media. Definitely reach out to someone you trust. And don't delay asking for help. It's okay. It's okay if you are struggling. You know, I really am hoping that the stigma goes away, but it's okay to ask for help. And it really is important because, yes, we signed up for motherhood. You bet we did. And we love our kids dearly, but we didn't sign up for this like until we're 90 years old. You know, I mean, I always thought that, I mean, I literally like 5 years ago, I said I was going to open up a Greek diner and I was going to be walking around in my orthopedic shoes, running a diner. So my kids had a job for the rest of their life. And now I'm kind of rethinking that. And, you know, I want to travel. I want to do fun things. I want to live life like other people live. And I deserve that just like other mothers do.
Which makes perfect sense. So what tools do you use now to manage your stressful days?
Meditation. I never meditated before. I couldn't get past 2 seconds. 2 seconds, the phone is ringing, something. So I do meditate and I do reach out to my friends.
That's wonderful. That's great.
I spend a lot of time on the phone. And you know, that's what I need right now.
So can you give us 3 tips that you have learned that have been useful over the past 9+ months?
Yes. 3 things. 1, solutions. I'm going to sound like my social worker here, but she's a great social worker. Number 1, solutions stem from support. Number 2, it's impossible to feel anxiety and gratitude at the same time. And number 3, I love this one. I learned a second definition of hope. Help one person every day.
Wow. That's fantastic. I love that. That's great.
Get out of yourself. Get out of yourself and help someone else.
Right.
It really does help.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Melanie, so much. So I just want to remind everybody that Melanie's book, Leaning on Mom, Letters to Roberta, How a Mom of 3 with Autism Found Strength During the Pandemic, is a bestseller. Melanie's a best-selling author. And her book, there it is available on Amazon.com. So just before we go, I just want to go through some of the messages in the chat because there were some really nice things. So first, I just want to go back to this thing about labeling people with autism as high functioning or low functioning. So Dr. Carol Fiorelli, who, for those of you that don't know her, is one of the most brilliant people that you could ever meet and talk to about psychology, autism, etc. She said, I think we should talk about children with autism in terms of their current verbal repertoires, whether vocal or non-vocal, verbal. This can provide a level of understanding in terms of capabilities and what the children with and what the children with can do with respect to intervention. And that actually makes a lot of sense. What do you think about that? About talking about a child's communicative ability, whether it be with words or with actions?
I love it. I think it's a great idea. Absolutely. Because we kind of already do. You know, he's nonverbal. He uses a device, you know, or he speaks fluently. I love that idea, Dr. Fiorelli. Thank you.
That's fantastic. So one comment, Melanie, you are a miracle. With 3 miraculous boys who are blessed to have you as their mom. Thank you for your courage, strength, and hope. Such a wonderful example of dignity and grace. You are going to help so many people. I mean, who's not going to agree with that?
Thank you. That I don't know who said that, but thank you. That really makes me feel so good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Yes. And on that note, thank you, Melanie. thank you everybody who joined us. And this is going to be put on our ABA Skills YouTube channel. So if you missed all or part, or you think that there's some information in this talk tonight that could really benefit someone else, feel free to contact me, Ray, at abaskills.com, and I will send you the link. But you can expect to see this talk up on our ABA Skills YouTube channel within the next week. So again, thank you, Melanie. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night, Melanie. It was good to see you.
Good. Thank you for coming, Dr. Fiorelli. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Listen, anytime you can call me anytime if you get lonely.
Okay. Thank you. I definitely will.
Class the next semester because you were awesome.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
That was great.
Thank you, Melanie. I'm so blessed.
Thank you so much.
So happy and so grateful to have you as a friend. Thank you, Nancy.
Have a good night. God bless
You
you.
too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yes. Happy Hanukkah.
Bye.
Hi, Ryan.
Okay. All right. That was great. All right. Thanks, Melanie.
Let me
That
call
really
Mike
was
out.
amazing.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.